Hello class, in this video I'll be showing you how to determine if a function is linear given a set of ordered pairs. Let's begin. Okay, so before I go through the two examples in this video, I would like to cover some important information first. The average rate of change of a linear function, f of x is equal to mx plus b, is the slope. So the slope of a linear function is the average rate of change of that function. And remember, the slope is the coefficient of x. For a function to be considered linear, the average rate of change must be constant. Or in other words, the same between any 2 points on the graph. Okay, so with that said, let's take a look at the first example. I want to determine if these 5 ordered pairs create a linear function. And if they do, I'm going to determine the equation of that line. All right, so let's recall that the slope of a linear function is equal to the change in the vertical movement divided by the change in the horizontal movement. All right, so I'm going to start by looking at the change in the horizontal movement, or the change in x. And notice that x is increasing by 1 every time. If we take a look at the change in the vertical movement, or the change in y, notice that there's an increase of 2 between 3 and 5. And the next increases by 3, the next increases by 1, and the final increase is by 2. Now to find the slope, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the change in y and divide it by its corresponding change in x. So the first slope is 2 divided by 1. The second slope, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take the change in y and divide it by its corresponding change in x. And we don't need to go any further because we've already determined that the first slope of 2 doesn't equal the second slope, which is 3. So we can conclude the following. Since the first slope doesn't equal the second slope, these ordered pairs do not create a linear function. Okay. Next example. We want to do the same thing. We want to determine if these ordered pairs create a linear function, and if they do, we want to create that function. So again, the slope of a line is the change in the vertical movement divided by the change in the horizontal movement. And if we start with the change in the horizontal movement, which is the change in x, notice that x increases by 1 as we descend this column. And if we take a look at the change in y, notice that y decreases by 3 every time as we descend the column on the right. So the first slope is going to equal the change in y divided by the corresponding change in x. So that is -3 divided by 1. the second slope, is the same thing. Change in y divided by the corresponding change in x. So again, that is -3 divided by 1. And if we continue the pattern, notice that all 4 slopes are equal. So we can conclude the following. Since the first slope is equal to the second slope, which is equal to the third, which is equal to the fourth, these ordered pairs create a linear function. All right, now let's go ahead and find the equation of this linear function. And we can do that by finding the slope and the y-intercept. So in this case, the slope is -3, and the y-intercept we can find right here. It is the ordered pair 0, -11. So I'm going to write that here. So the equation in slope-intercept form is y is equal to -3 x minus 11. And we are done.